Kia ora, my name is Tyrone,
Talofa, my name is Pasi, and welcome to the Entrepreneur's Edge podcast.
where we help Māori and Pacific business owners win. Awesome. So welcome back to Entrepreneur's Edge with myself, Tyrone, and Pasi, where we help Māori and Pacific entrepreneurs win. So today we thought it'd be good to actually talk about how to find time to work on your business. Now, for myself, I love working on the business, but trying to find time to actually do it can be a difficult task. I know me and Pasi have talked to others and they've talked about how it can be a difficult task for themselves. So we thought, why not talk about it today and kind of share some of our learnings, I guess, around trying to carve out time for it. So yeah, yourself, bro, how do you go about trying to find time to work on the business?
Well, you got to make time, I think, is the most important thing. Because a lot of us are so busy working in our business, got to respond to clients, got to respond to the team, got to, do this thing, right? Working on the business requires you to step back a little bit from the day-to-day. And when we say working on the business, we're talking about, working at a high level, focusing on the long-term stuff, focusing on the strategy, focusing on those tasks that require, they might be a little bit more long-term, like your day-to-day, like tasks that you can complete daily or weekly. When we say working on the business, it's also focusing on the bigger picture, focusing on those tasks that are maybe 3 months, 6 months. Like for us as education, like becoming a PTE, like yes, you can block in time, day to day to fill in the application form, do all of this, but it's actually stepping back, working on the business and be like, where are we strategically? We said our goal is to complete this in the next 12 months. Are we on track?
Yeah.
What are some other hiccups and stuff, Because for us, that's the high level stuff that we need to achieve because it's going to help us achieve our 3 to 5 year goal, right? So that's what I'm talking about, working on the business, working on things that are a little bit more long term, big picture stuff, but stuff that's going to help you scale, grow.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So in order to make that happen, block in time and be consistent and protect that time. Be like, every Friday for 2 hours, I'm working on strategy. I'm working on the business. And working on the business doesn't necessarily have to be strategic stuff. It could be like, look, you want to block in time to do more AI stuff, right? Working on the business, I believe, is also working on yourself.
Yeah.
It's like upskilling yourself. You'd be like, look, in order to achieve our goal, we need this capability. We need this skill in our team. So I'm going to do this course, or I'm going to do this training. I'm going to do this online course. Block in time, because that all goes back to working on the business. Because like I said before, a lot of us are working on day-to-day, serving the customer, building the product, delivering the service. But make time to work on yourself, because that's the same as working on your business.
Yeah.
Okay?
Awesome. Yeah, man. You took the words out of my mouth. You definitely took into everything that I would share as well. And why is it important to work on the business? Is because for myself, if I talk about my own experience, I didn't start a business so I could just be doing this every day. There are a lot of jobs out there that kind of do what I do, and I could just go work at those and kind of do the work. But for myself, there is definitely aspirations and a vision I have when I set up stuff, not just to achieve stuff for ourselves, but if I take the work that I'm doing with my second half, Mahi, we do want to see a lot more people, not just help with AI, because that's kind of the stuff that we do, but actually want to see for communities, live out their dreams and what those are. So it's very easy when you're kind of doing the work to get pulled into the delivery of the stuff and doing the day-to-day stuff that if you're not aware or being constantly aware of what you're trying to achieve, sometimes you can be doing activities that are just not aligned. So when we're talking about working on the business, we're talking about, are we actually aligned with the greater vision, the greater aspirations we have? And if we are, great, we can go back into that delivery and do stuff there. But if we're not, we should be looking at actually then what are we doing? What are we up to? Because I know for myself, I don't just start business just to do the tools or be on the tools and do some work, although I do love the stuff I do, but it's around what are we trying to achieve here. Okay, so when we're talking about on the business, we're talking about all, like Pasi said, high level stuff, strategy, but it's all encompassing because it kind of helps you with your alignment. So I guess you talked into this a little bit, but like, what do you think stops business owners from carving out that time?
I think the day-to-day stuff. Like if you're the one who's doing the service or building the thing, right? Like I said, everything hangs and falls on you as the business owner operator, right? Again, coming back to what we call the treadmill operator. You own the business, but you actually have to work the job. Like you're the job, right? So it's going to be a little bit scary for some people to be like, oh, you know, like this is blocking out 3 hours of my time. I'm not, like, I could be using this time to be able to do this thing to make money. It's like, you've got to change your perspective because it's still the same thing, right? You'll be able to make more money if you focus on the long-term stuff, right? So yeah, I think there has to be a level of changing your perspective around what working on the business means versus working day to day in the business. Like they're both very important, right? So once you understand the importance of both, block in time to work on the business. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I think you alluded to it before, but I think a lot of people just don't prioritize it. And I think, you know, if we were to kind of, you know, ask why, I think it's a mindset thing. And I'll say this for myself because I come from, you know, before getting into business, I had a full-time role, was employed. Some case it was great because, you know, your managers or bosses will tell you, you know, what you're doing this week, where to go. But when it comes to running your own business, you're having to figure that all out. So I say that all to say that like there was work that I had to do, things that I had to achieve that I thought my value as a person was through my labor. So I was always considerate of that when I jumped into things. I'm like, cool, I'm adding, I'm contributing my values because I'm showing up and doing stuff. When you become or get into business, you realize that, yes, there is value in people that supply their labor to what we're doing, but also there's a lot of value to looking at the high level stuff. And I think it's a mindset shift that actually needs to happen. So yes, you may not be prioritizing because you're looking at your time and going, actually, I need to do this activity because it's going to make us money and we need money to kind of run what we're doing. But I also think what's holding people back mostly, and I consider what was holding me back is because my value was always connected to the labor that I did in the job. And I've had conversations with a lot of people around this, and you know, we you know, I think about us as even Māori and Pacific, you know, it's all about service and adding service, and that's, you know, usually our hands applying to something. And sometimes we don't consider the value that comes from actually stepping back, you know, thinking strategically around stuff, because that's going to then inform the activities that we may need to do.
I was going to say, sometimes people need some intervention in order to have that mind shift, to go from doer to like now being more strategic, right? Like a lot of people don't know how to do it. I just feel like they know it's important, but they just have this habit of going back to the day-to-day because they're not used to stepping back, thinking strategic. And sometimes people leave it for at the end of the year, you know, hey, let's talk about strategy. What are our goals? Where we are? How did we check for the year? When we say working on the business, it's not waiting for the end of the year. It's doing it consistently. Like make time for strategy weekly. Make time for strategy weekly, working on the business. Don't wait for the end of the year because it'll be too late when you look back. Be like, hey, we said we're going to make $1 million, but it was like, you know, we're not on track. What happened? You know, you should be catching that stuff early, catching that stuff weekly when you're stepping back and looking at things from a bigger picture. When you're stuck working in the business, you miss a lot of things. You can easily miss a lot of things, right? So I'd say sometimes you need some intervention. Sometimes you might have to do an online course or get some coaching from somebody to teach you how to think strategic. Okay? Because it doesn't come natural for everybody. And sometimes you might just have to pay somebody else to help you. Just, it is what it is.
Yeah, totally. And I agree with that because I think I've talked to a lot of people and they're like, oh, I'm just not a strategic person. And I get it. I get that, you know, for some people, it might not be your cup of tea to kind of sit in strategy. But I do think it's a learnable skill. And like Pasi said, there's actually ways in which you can learn it. Hopefully through what we're sharing, you're able to kind of see how we're not only thinking tactically about stuff, but also strategically around things and how we go about it. But I do think it's a learnable skill. It's a skill that everyone can learn. And basically, you know, we've kind of mapped it out even in this conversation. It's like, where are you trying to go? Are we doing the things that go in there? And then if we don't know, we do have the access now to tools such as, you know, AI to actually kind of help us with that thinking. So I think when we're talking about this stuff, there is a lot more at it than just, I guess, prioritizing time, although that is a big thing, and it's something that I've had to make sure I block out as well. But it also comes back to how you perceive and you know, working on your business to working in the business. And usually it's because there might be some experiences or things that you've had, and I talk about myself, that I thought labor was my value, and you've got a lot more to offer is what we're trying to say. And I guess when it comes to working on the business, I did want to add that there's also a balance of doing it too. And again, it changes because if you start to have obviously people working for you and you're able to outsource a lot of that work, it does change. You can probably be a bit more on the business. But I think if we're talking to people that are just starting or not even just starting, people that have been in it for a while, trying to make that transition out, you know, it's like, we're not trying to say fully go on to just working on your business. We're trying to say add in a little bit, and then eventually over time you may be able to, you know, increase the time that you do it. But it's also a balance. I have to make sure, because of the stuff I do, I'm in it. But also I make sure every week that I'm finding time to actually go, cool, where am I at with the business? Are we heading in the right direction? And those weekly ones are not like the monthly ones or quarterly ones we do. Those are a lot more time to really think, you know, where we're going. But having that time to just sit back and go, okay, cool, am I doing the stuff? Okay, if I'm not, could I be upskilling myself around stuff? Could I be looking at our strategy a lot different? So I guess, yeah, do you have any points around that, bro? Like we might have people right now that are like, bro, I've just got 5 minutes to watch your podcast. I don't even have time to watch this. Like, how do I ever find time to carve out for working on the business that is practical? Like, I could do it tomorrow.
I think that's a good point there. You just mentioned the magic word podcast. Like, what I do as well in my day-to-day to fit it in there is, if I know in my strategy that, you know, my goal is to do a particular thing, I will spend some time learning more about it.
Yeah.
I'll listen to podcasts, I'll read books to help me understand it better, right? If it's like the whole PTE thing, you know, education is becoming a PTE in the future, I've got to spend a little bit more time connecting with people in that space, learning about, like, you know, what does it take to be a thriving PTE when I become one? How do I make money when I become one? How do we sustain a PTE, right? Read, learn, do some stuff around it, right? That's the same as working on the business. So yeah, that's what I'd say is pretty easy that you can just fit in there.
Yeah.
Upskill yourself. Coming back to that, working on yourself is working on the business.
Yeah, cool, awesome. And I think, because I do have a note on this and I wanted to talk into it, but I think we've answered it as well, is that I think there's this kind of culture that exists within the kind of, not just the business space, but just in this working kind of landscape around, you need to be busy. And I think for myself anyway, that was kind of a thing that kind of, you know, unsubconsciously would play out every time, you know, that I'll think about, actually, I need to step back. I'm like, no, like, actually, there's stuff I need to do. I need to tick off my to-do list. But we've kind of highlighted that if you just continuously just look at a to-do list and look at things you need to tick off, you end up getting drawn into things where you're like, yes, I may be completing tasks, but like, it might not be achieving what we set out to do. Okay, so I guess you've already answered it, but is there anything that you would recommend to kind of what would they say, decouple or break loose from like this whole kind of being busy culture?
Yeah, I think first of all, understand the difference between being busy and being productive. Like, you know, you can fill your calendar with a lot of stuff and you look busy. It's like, oh, what'd you get up to this week? Oh, I did this. And your calendar might look like it's filled up with some, but are they productive?
Yeah.
Are you being productive? Like, busy is just like busy for the sake of being busy. But being productive means, you know, it's in the word, you're producing more. Are you producing more time? Are you producing more output? Are you producing more, you know, are you doing more of that thing? Or are you just being busy, 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 and production and productivity is still the same or going down, right? So you need to challenge yourself and ask yourself, am I using my time wisely? Am I these tasks or these events that I'm being invited to attend, is it going to be productive? Is it going to help me achieve my goals?
Yeah.
You know, that is thinking strategically. If you're just going with the flow, busy, busy, and be like, oh yeah, that looks like a nice event to attend to. Ask yourself, why? Why should I attend that? What am I going to gain from that that's going to help me move the business forward? If it's going to add value, be like, look, I'm going to learn something. I don't understand the space. I think going there will help me understand it a little bit better. That's good. That's ROI. That's being productive. If you're going to go to the event, you know you're going to meet potential clients and networks. That's being productive.
Yeah.
Right? So I think you just got to understand the difference between being busy and being productive. Once you understand that, then it's easier, right? Because strategic is a mindset as well. Like being strategic is a mindset. Once you've got that mindset, working on the business feels natural and it's easy to do. It doesn't matter if you're doing it weekly. It doesn't matter if you're doing it daily. It doesn't matter if you're doing it monthly or quarterly. Like just having that mindset in your day to day to not just be focused on, oh, I got to go to this thing, right? But thinking why and how does it add value? That is being strategic.
Yeah, awesome. No, totally, I agree. And I think as you spoke, what came to mind for me too is actually getting really good at saying no. You know, you talked about that whole networking activity, and we spoke offline about this too. Like for us, and where we're probably at our business now is that, you know, we get opportunities that sound really great, but when you really kind of look at what potential impact they may have on what we're trying to do, again, we're not trying to say that all opportunities are bad, but sometimes you know, you got to prioritize what's best for your time, you know. And sometimes you have to make the decision whether that is an activity that would be, you know, best that I do for my time. And I think you have to actually get good at saying no. And it's very hard. I think for myself, when I got into business, and even for a long time, I was like, I can't say no because this might lead to something, right? But I think, and we've talked about it in previous episodes, and we're going to probably talk about it in future episodes, but there's ways to actually look at what you're doing and be a bit more methodical and look at, okay, what is the data says that actually, how do we go about getting the clients that we get? And, you know, whether it's more because we do a lot more stuff on social media, people love what we do, that leads to kind of opportunities to have conversation, that leads to maybe potentially working. And I'm not trying to say this as a transactional thing. I'm trying to say this as if I'm running an organization or I'm running a business, I have to consider where am I going to be best putting my time and energy. Okay,
Yeah.
that's going to lead to you know, the things that are going to help our business grow, but also for our own energy. You know, we're only one person. We can do mighty things and do a lot of things, but, you know, I find for myself when I'm trying to do 20 million things at once, I'm not even giving my best energy to all of that. So part of this is saying no, or getting better at saying no, because, you know, we want to hopefully show up and be our best at whatever we're going to hopefully go to or be a part of.
Yeah, and and like coming back to what Tyrone was saying, it's not a selfish thing, you know, thinking about like, you know, am I spending my time wisely here? Also from a Pacific and Māori perspective, you know, like, am I fulfilling my role to the best of my ability and for the best of my people by attending this thing? Like say, for example, if your role is sales, right? Think of it as like, I'm the breadwinner, like the people rely on me to sell stuff, to find work, to bring in work for my people. And then, you know, that pays everyone's salary, put food on the table, right? If I don't spend my time wisely, I'm not making sales. If I'm not making sales, I'm not providing for my team. Like even from a Pacific and Māori perspective, with that lens around, is this serving my people? Attending this thing, working on this task, meeting with this person, is that serving my people? If not, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't feel guilty saying no. It's like, look, I would love to, thank you for the invitation, but I can't attend. It's not going to serve my people.
Yeah.
It's just not going to, you know? So it's not just about am I spending my time wisely? It's also about, is this serving my people wisely?
Yeah.
You know? So even from a Māori Pacifica lens, just to help you not feel guilty, like that's going to help you be a little bit more wiser with how you spend your time.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Well, I guess on okay, dovetailing that, is there any tools or coping strategies that you have to kind of help with making those decisions?
Sorry.
Oh, good.
What I'll say is, look, I'm not perfect at it. And I think what's helped me is accountability. Like, as the owner, sometimes there is no one to report to, right? And it's easy to just slack off.
Yeah.
It's easy to drop the ball. Or sometimes you don't even realize you're dropping the ball and there's no one to call it out for you or tell you, but like, hey, find accountability, whether that's like friends to talk to, whether that's an accountability partner, whether that's if you're in business with your wife or your husband. Like, that's why I say, when you have those checkpoints, those meetings every week, working on the business, or those meetings where you're discussing, like, you know, let's pause from our day to day and start talking strategic here. How are we tracking? You said you're going to do this. Have you done it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like you need accountability in order to help with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of that. Like, as a business owner, your mindset should be like, I need someone to call it out or tell me what I'm doing wrong or what I can do better so that I could grow the business.
Yeah.
So I can achieve that long-term vision. So I can help my people, right? So, you know, yeah, there's only so much you could do, right? By yourself. And I think you could be the reason why the business is not growing or moving forward.
Yeah.
Is that what do you call it when you don't realize, you know, you're naive, being naive, you don't realize that you're the problem.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like with accountability, that helps.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think you being the problem or you being the bottleneck, and it's honestly it's a constant thing you find as an owner. Sometimes, and I know from when I first started, I didn't always look at myself. I was like, oh, it's someone else or something else. You know, whether that be a person, whether that be a tool that we're using, that's the reason why we're not growing. But the ones that the businesses you find that are growing, that are thriving, that are doing well is because quite often their business owners looking at themselves and going, how am I limiting this business? How am I me being the bottleneck, what is that doing to our business? And this is why I guess business owners take that time to step back and go, cool, how do I, whether that's learning how to delegate, whether that's learning how to kind of set up things to help, not just with delegation, but, you know, kind of understand, you know, where we want to grow with this business. Like, there's a lot of things that as a business owner, you're the reason why it's not growing. And I think, I'm not saying that's just to you, I'm saying that's to myself. I'm constantly met or challenged every week to go, cool, how can I make sure that I am not preventing this business from growing? So, if you're stopping yourself from working on the business, yeah, just don't want to say anything, but we are saying something is that you're potentially limiting the growth that you can have as a business and as a person as well. So I guess, one thing I did want to talk about, because for myself, and we talked about learning, and part of you know, you learning or upskilling can help is a part of being on the business as well. One of the things that I have, I do regularly to help me with kind of, I guess, making time for learning is that I came across this kind of concept called the second brain. So basically, you know, this brain's got a lot going on, but it can't contain everything. And, you know, fortunately for us, we do have technology where we can put our notes and put things down. But I come across, and, you know, partly because I scroll on social media, I come across all this good content. But it's very hard to kind of watch it all, or, you know, or it's very bad of me to be doing it or watching it because I actually have some work that I need to focus on. So this whole kind of second brain concept is this idea of like you can have all these ideas and store it in a place and then actually come back in time to revisit it. The reason why I mentioned that is because it's really helped me, and it's easy to kind of have 30 videos that you've saved and not watch any of them. Like, I'll be honest, there's a part of that can happen as well. But part of this is actually, when coming to working on, sometimes, yes, we can look at our vision and look at where we're going, are they aligned? But when it comes to upskilling, sometimes we're like, okay, what do I upskill myself on? And, as an example, we talked about AI and what can we do to learn more about it. But if you've got some content that if you've got a whole system set up to go, cool, these are some of the points it talks about, then you can actually walk into that with like, cool, I can actually like focus on that instead of having to take time to like, what do I actually want to learn? What is specifically do I want to learn? So yeah, there's this whole thing called second brain. Maybe we'll release that in our emails around how you can develop your own second brain, so you can have all these things churning in the background where you don't actually have to have it in your brain. But eventually when you make time for it, it's all there set up for you to kind of jump into it. So I just thought I'd mention that. But I guess we're kind of at the end of this kind of conversation. Like, is there anything you would love to, I guess, leave with our listeners?
No, I just want to say, Tyrone and I really do believe, like, in your guys' potential. Like, being in business is not easy. And we know the struggle. We can empathize with you, especially when you're starting out. It's not easy. It's hard, right? But what's going to make things a lot more easier is finding a way to work on the business. Again, focusing on the long-term stuff. What are the long-term tasks, the long-term things that I need to do in order to help move me away from the day-to-day, and eventually in the long run on the business, right? Because you want more time for yourself and your family in the future. You don't want to be just working in your business for the rest of your life, okay? And so we're here to cheer you on. You've got this. If you need help or support, reach out to us. We're here to help you win.
Yeah, awesome. And I just want to add to that. Yeah, we're definitely here to help you win. Say no more. And to Pasi's point, you're not just being selfish by saying it. There's a whole people, whole village, whole community that, potentially are wanting to make sure that you are helping spend your time and energy on the right stuff. So, a lot more people can thrive and win from it. And I think for myself, just kind of going back to Pasi's point around accountability, very important within this work. But like I said too, like if you're not... the biggest accountability or the biggest thing that I think people should be leaning into as a business owner, and I'm using myself as an example because I know it to be true, and I've seen kind of what happens when I don't lean into this, is that if you don't take accountability for your own actions and see that the reason why you're not growing is because of you, you're going to constantly blame other things and think everything else is out of your control. And there's a lot more in your control, because I do want to state that there are many Māori and Pacific businesses thriving. There are many businesses in general thriving. And there's potentially a lot of other forces at play, but a lot of it's got to do with that those business owners understand I am potentially the bottleneck. How do I make sure I am not? So hopefully that wraps up today. And the reason why we believe that working on your business is important. Find some time and find how to balance that with all the work that you're doing. But that's us this week, and we'll catch up with another episode. Thank you for tuning in to our Entrepreneur's Edge podcast.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more content like this, and so you don't miss out on any future episodes.